Hello, everyone, and we're glad to welcome you at our new live interview, this time with Tom Lyons of ConsenSys. We are going to talk about what is actually the real future of the blockchain implementation, decentralized apps, taking it beyond the mere coin or token creation. Hello, Tom. How are you doing?
Fine. How you doing yourself? I'm doing great, thanks.
Yeah, well, enjoying a bit of nasty weather, but the rest is all fine. Well, we are all sort of hustled here with the preparations to the summit, and I'm glad to welcome you joining us at the summit on the 23rd, 24th of November. By the way, everyone who's following us, please do subscribe, please do follow us, please do attend the summit, because this is where all the interesting stuff will be. And in the meanwhile, I will just ask Tom some questions about what the scope of the presentation and what actually the world's top protocol developers will present at the summit. Tom, could you please tell me a bit more about ConsenSys? Just give me a general introduction to what you actually do.
Yeah, sure, of course. So ConsenSys is arguably one of the largest blockchain companies in the world. Right now, we have 1,300 people in over 30 countries. And our mission is to, our headline mission is to build the operating system for the decentralized world. Basically, the idea is to build out generally the Ethereum ecosystem in various ways, and we do this in various ways. So, for example, we have a venture studio, so we incubate projects, and we have about 50 projects going on right now in all sorts of use cases in blockchain. We have ConsenSys Solutions, which is an enterprise consulting arm where we do consulting and also enterprise projects. We have education arm, ConsenSys Academy, which does developer and decision maker education, and also for the general public. And we also do, we also have ConsenSys Capital, where we do our own investing, or we offer token launch services and related services. We offer also crypto asset custody. And we're also quite active building out, contributing to the Ethereum infrastructure. So you might have seen just this week we introduced Pantheon, which is an enterprise client. We do developer tools like Truffle. We have MetaMask, Uport for identity. So we're involved in a lot of these kind of things. It's pretty much everything and anything around the Ethereum ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. And well, let's say we have all seen an incredible boost of the number of decentralized apps developed on the Ethereum network, like let's say the last couple of years. What is the current situation there? We don't hear that much hype, but we definitely see that something is being seriously developed there.
Yeah, so the situation is interesting. First of all, the number of apps continue to explode. I checked internally, so we're up like 30 times over last year. And there's no, in terms of the sheer number of DApps that are live. But the other side of that is there's not particularly high numbers of users per DApp, right? So we're seeing a lot of development work, but not necessarily, mass uptake. I think that's set to change, but that's kind of the situation right now.
So, well, probably the question that that would make many of us sad, but I have to ask that. So, shall we actually expect? I mean, I've read about Vitalik's concerns on the Ether price, and I remember he said that he was quite disappointed with the fact that it was bubbling up for the last couple of years, and then we actually did have a decrease, which probably appealed to the Ethereum developers, but it actually disappointed quite a bunch of users here. So what shall be the next trend? I mean, shall there be more trade going on, or shall that be more infrastructural development?
Well, me personally, I'm clearly on the side of infrastructure development. I think the price of Ether and the price of a cryptocurrency is important as an indicator, but it's secondary. It's not the goal. It shouldn't be the end goal itself. Okay, you're going to create value by having products and services that are useful. Okay, what's interesting about the cryptocurrency world is that or about the blockchain world, is because we have this ability to make these tokens, to make currencies, we have a very clear indicator of value, okay, and a way to share value that you might not have in other contexts. But I think I'm sure there's plenty of people who disagree with me, also maybe within ConsenSys, but I think that while it's important, it's secondary.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, what we are expecting, what we are hoping to deliver at the summit is that all those millions of dollars, they actually lie not in the tokens themselves, but in the so-called the next industrial revolution that would come with the mass adoption of distributed ledgers. And
exactly, yeah, I agree. That's exactly what I was trying to say.
And this way, well, basically, more and more people will be able to benefit. Now, if we speak about the actual prospects of mass adoption, right now at ConsenSys, which spheres of business are most interesting for your development, and which are the most, let's say, requirement and which show highest demand for the blockchain development?
Okay, so we're pretty much involved in a very wide variety of use cases. All right, so and you know, in terms of what's hot right now, I think that anything to do with supply chain kind of stuff is hot. You know, we have stuff in somebody just tried to walk in here in entertainment. We have a securities custody project, which is quite interesting. We just announced Comgo, which is a commodities trade finance thing, and it's based in Geneva. But what basically, you know, these kind of areas where you can get these consortiums and develop these wide markets are interesting.
Uh-huh. So do we see more independent or smaller entrepreneurs joining in, or is there a trend for bigger corporations, bigger industrial representatives showing their interest to blockchain?
Yeah, I think 2019 you're going to see most of the headline action going to be on the enterprise side, with large consortiums with like this trade finance thing with IBM and Maersk, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I see. And that changes the infrastructure, that changes probably some business processes for us. At the same time, I mean, for the rest of us, for those who are not actually working with the blockchain development, do you see anywhere in the future how our social environment could be changed with decentralized apps and blockchain implementation?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, just because I'm saying we're going to see a lot of movement on the enterprise side first doesn't mean that the consumer side doesn't come. Quite the contrary. We saw the same thing with the internet when it came up, right? If you ask me personally, what I find interesting on the social aspect are, number one, self-sovereign identity. Okay, so when we start to get you know, functioning mass adoption of you know, user-centric identities for the internet, I think people will begin to really understand what's different here and what's interesting. You know, again, if you look at the stuff going on in supply chains, where you can, you know, when I can start going to the store and, you know, point my phone at a piece of at a steak or a tomato or something, and really see the provenance of this thing from where it came from, you know, from farm to fork. These things are coming. It's interesting. Even more, maybe importantly, or as important, is doing the same thing with pharmaceuticals, right? And being able to trace the provenance of medicines, and you know, when you get that kind of overview, you can also start to get more trust in these supply chains, but you can also start to build new kinds of markets around it. I happen to be a fan of the idea of decentralized autonomous organizations, and I'm curious to see how we start to get people using blockchain platforms to build micro communities among themselves that are sort of self-organizing and maybe so decentralized and maybe to a degree autonomous. And I think is when people start seeing, you know, decentralization happening on a local level in some sort of micro community, whether it's around a club or a certain kind of an interest, and they start to get used to it, that's going to drive mass adoption to a certain degree. People are going to say, hey, it works in my community. Why doesn't it work in my company? Right, on a larger level. And then they might start saying, hey, if this works in my company, why doesn't it work in my country?
Mm-hmm. Well, that is definitely a good approach, but at the same time, I still have a question which you probably could help us out with. Since we've had the distributed ledgers already open sourced and available for developers for like several years at the least in their current state, and we still do not see that. What do you think is preventing us from actually starting to use it? I mean, with the internet, we did have this story about, first of all, just some small number of people using it, then some smaller enterprises started to use it. Only then there was the dot-com era, and only then we actually got what we have now with the properly developed indexers, with all of the social media networks, and with all the environment we have on the web. Well, it's kind of difficult to say what was the catalyst of that reaction for the internet, but what kind of catalyst are we lacking now for the blockchain mass adoption? Is it a lack of investment, or is it a lack of understanding, a lack of education, or just a lack of specialists and technical developers?
No, I think the problem is quite different. I think expectations are way too high that it's going to go too fast. What we need on the consumer side is one hugely highly successful consumer app and or consumer sort of ecosystem. Okay, that will drive mass adoption. When people see some sort of value in some sort of decentralized application, okay, and it makes their lives easier, it's cheaper, it's safer, whatever it's going to be, and that's going to take time. This technology is still very young. I'm not sure we have the infrastructure yet for mass adoption, really. We don't have the scalability yet, and we don't have we don't have that that really super blockchain use case yet.
So it's just about well, we have seen like thousands and thousands of different projects, startups, and businesses joining in, and well, none of those actually catalyzed the reaction. Now, well, kind of. It's not that I'm intrusive, but do you have one of those big shot projects in the portfolio of ConsenSys coming anywhere soon?
We certainly hope so.
Okay. Okay.
No, I'm not. I can't sit and make predictions and talk about what's actually which one of our things is going to take off. But yeah, there's interesting stuff going on.
Okay. Well, will you be sharing any of those insights and use cases at the event?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. So I think I'm gonna come there and talk about the state of Ethereum, where we are. I think some interesting things are happening right now, so that'll give you a sense of where we are on the technology level. From a high level, I'm not a technologist myself, and then I want to take some deep dives into some of the more interesting, promising use cases.
I see. Well, we'll be definitely glad to attend. I hope everyone joins us at the summit there. Will you be available for any sort of network and communication at the summit? Can developers, startups, projects expect to see you there, and will you be able to share your expertise with them?
Absolutely. I'm at your service.
Thank you. Great. Okay. Well, I guess it's been, well, it really has been really nice talking to you, really interesting. Hope we will have more and more insights coming. And again, I welcome everyone to attend us the 23rd, 24th of November in Basel, the biggest and definitely the most insightful blockchain event. We will try to share the real value with all of us, with every attendant, and we will as I said, try to take it beyond the coin creation. We will actually take it to the infrastructural applications, and definitely we are glad to see ConsenSys at our side.
We're glad to be there. I'm looking forward.
Okay, so I guess we'll be in touch with you in our next live interviews. Everyone, please stay tuned, and there will be more.
So long.
Have a good one. Take care.